Hey everyone, and welcome to part 6 of our top 50 movies of the 2010s. This episode is going to feature numbers 25 through number 21. Make sure you check out the first 5 parts for the first 25 entries of all 5 of us, but without further ado, let's start off with number 25.
From 25 up, these are the ones I really poured sweat over and wanted to put just in the right spot. But number 25 is a movie people probably wouldn't expect, but I can't not love this film. And it's La La Land. It's a musical. I don't like musicals. Yeah. I made Pete watch it. He kind of liked it. He didn't hate it.
What do you mean kind of liked that? I did no such thing.
You kind of liked it, Pete.
I did not. I do not recall saying anything of the sort. There was no kind of like.
I remember you whistling City of Stars as we came to record.
Okay, first of all, I can't whistle, so your story is full of holes. Secondly, I have no idea what track that is.
Yeah, I know. Just let me have my moment. But yeah, no, the story of Sebastian and Mia, these star-crossed lovers in Los Angeles. He's a jazz musician. She's an up-and-coming actress. And it's basically a story of them in La La Land in Los Angeles. And it feels like a throwback to old, 40s, 50s style movies where it's this heightened sense of reality. Everything's extra colorful. The stage scenes are definitely feel staged, but you don't care because of the emotions that it's drawing from you. And just, again, Ryan Gosling, he's fantastic. The song I brought up, City of Stars, really good. And then how do you not love Emma Stone? She's so charming in this one too, that you're hanging, you're hoping every time she takes a chance as an actress, you're hoping that it works out for her. And yeah, and I'm drawing a blank on the director. Pete, help me out.
Damien Chazelle.
Thank you, Chazelle. Yeah, following up Whiplash is going to be difficult, but he managed it here. As far as I'm concerned, he's 3 for 3.
My 25 is Black Swan. So this is a movie from Darren Aronofsky, starring Natalie Portman, who is tasked with performing, the Black Swan in the ballet. And it is all about her duality, this character, the white swan and the black swan, so to speak, and the light and the dark, the good and the bad, and who she is as a person. And it's even that, whether or not is she losing her grip on reality is a lot of the movie. And this is encouraged a lot by Mila Kunis's character. And there's a lot of fantastic visuals, some great music, some really interesting and unique renditions of Swan Lake music that are incorporated into this really original score, and then it just has a lot of tension as well, like in things that are relatively mundane in the activity that are happening at the time. It always feels so tense, like anything could happen at any minute, and the reality is cracking. And yeah, it's a movie that I think has a lot going on in it. That every time I watch it, I enjoy it more.
Also, Hypnotic is my number 25, and that is Evil Dead.
I don't know if I'd describe 2013 Evil Dead as hypnotic, Tim. I mean, a lot of things, but not hypnotic.
I just needed a branch to go on to my next.
You realize that when this is edited, none of them will be together. Like, they're going to all be separated. The segues are useless here, Tim.
I realized nothing. But no, I love Evil Dead, and I feel like, man, if you compare the remakes of like the 2000s versus the remakes of the 2010s, it's like night and day. Like, yeah, early 2000s were so bad.
No. Tim. Night and the Living Dead remake was 1990s, and then Dawn of the Dead was and Day of the Dead was 2000s. So Night and Day was 90s and 2000s.
Touche.
Come on, that was gold. That was good. That was good.
No, I give it to you. Props on that one. But no, I just yeah, especially Evil Dead, which is a series that is so beloved to me. But I absolutely love the remake. I think it's brutal. They did the wise choice of not bringing in someone to play Ash that's not Bruce Campbell, because how can you ever fulfill that role. But no, it's gory. It's fun as heck. You know, Jane, Levy is just terrific in it, and yeah, it's just super fun horror movie.
25. We're halfway there.
Whoa.
25 is a documentary, actually. It is They Shall Not Grow Old. This was made by Peter Jackson, who is a World War I historian, like armchair historian. He has relatives. His grandfather fought in World War I, and he was approached, I think, by, I don't know, some Library of Congress somewhere, and said, we want to make a documentary about this. Can you do something with this footage? And he took these old images and film footage from World War I and colorized it, which already sounds like it's going to be bad. Added sound effects, genuine sound effects, got voice actors and lip readers, professional lip readers, to create dialogue for what they're saying. And he restored the images to where they look like, I don't know, like where, I don't want to say it was filmed yesterday, but it doesn't look like World War I anymore. Like he gives life and gives these people faces and voices who really did live and really did sacrifice for us. And it's unbelievable when you watch it, because the first like half an hour of the documentary, maybe more like 20 minutes, is all like the original footage. And then he just zooms in eventually, and all of a sudden you're there. You're there in no man's land, and you see the tank, and you hear the tank, and you hear the explosions. And there's a follow-up documentary to the documentary of how he made everything. And that itself is fascinating. Highly, highly recommend.
Honestly, I was fairly unaware. I think you've told me about it once before, which is the only recollection I'm having as you're saying any of this. But
yeah, I was pretty high on it when I saw it in the theater.
My number 25 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't have a lot of Marvel movies on my top 50, but Guardians of the Galaxy ranks, I think, the highest of them. And really, like, you know, for a long time I just said Avengers was my favourite, and I think as a superhero movie it is, if that makes sense. But Guardians of the Galaxy is just a movie, I think is my favourite of the bunch, because it is the exactly kind of sci-fi with a bit of attitude that I can very much get into. I mean, I don't think it's surprising that this is, you know, the closest out of the Marvel movies to something like Firefly. It's you know, it's got that kind of ragtag group of characters who become a family on a ship and have to save the world despite the fact that they're a bunch of misfits. Like,
You're definitely not a self-parody, are you?
I mean, it's just, you know, it's up my alley, and I think the film is very funny, very witty. It's paced exceptionally. It's always accelerating at the right speed, where it's not moving too fast, but you do get a sense of momentum throughout the entire thing, which is why, despite the fact that I like a fair bit of Guardians 2, I think the momentum's the thing that suffers the most in the second one, because some of the main plot kind of sags a lot in the middle. Whereas this one, it's just, no, it's like boom, 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 they're in the prison, boom, 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 they're going to this place, boom, boom, and everything sort of offers its new, like, spin on what was before. It offers its new spin on the characters. And all 5 of the main characters are very likable, and they're very entertaining, and you're rooting for them by the end. And it doesn't matter that the villain is not that great, because he's whatever, you know, big blue dude, who cares?
Yeah, pretty much. But
it doesn't matter in this case, because this is about the characters who we are following and about the energy they bring to everything. And it very much follows kind of like, and it's funny that, you know, I'm talking about this along with Avengers, because this is a very Joss Whedon thing almost, where, now, while Joss Whedon also typically has good villains and typically has really good drama to tie everything together as well on top of this, there is a kind of a similar thing here with James Gunn, where James Gunn, it's like, okay, the actual plot of what's happening is pretty generic and the bad guy's not that big a deal, but the core characters who are all sort of like bouncing off each other and the adventure they're going on is what actually makes the whole thing work and makes it kind of irrelevant what the villain's doing with the stone. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. But delightful, good soundtrack, very colourful and bright, and yeah, Rocket Raccoon's one of the best characters in the Marvel Universe.
Number 24, It's a movie I don't know if a lot of people saw. It kind of went under the radar a little bit. But it was Alexander Payne's The Descendents, starring George Clooney.
Oh, I saw
Um,
this. I saw this.
Yeah. I like this movie a lot. This is what I find with movies like that from Alexander Payne is, and a little bit with Noah Baumbach as well, is that they craft such colorful characters, but that are also so true to life that it almost feels. I don't want to say like you're watching a documentary because it's not a documentary, but it just feels like they perfectly captured real life. Like these characters are completely realized, and yeah, The Descendants is a story of a guy that lives in Hawaii. He's an actual descendant of the royalty, and his wife ends up in a boating accident and passes away. So he has to deal with that while also dealing with selling this private land that is going to make this family, who does pretty well, it's going to make them even richer down the way. And it's all on George Clooney and his reactions and him, not that he starts picking at his wife's death, but there's stuff surrounding his wife's death that he starts pulling on these threads, and not everything's what it seems, but not in like a noir kind of way, but in a very true to life, this kind of stings. Shailene Woodley plays his oldest daughter. First time I remember seeing her, and she's really good in this. She plays the conflicted daughter dealing with her mother's death, and this father that's kind of not around. And although he tries very hard. But yeah, just a lot of the side characters are perfectly realized. And if you've ever spent any time in Hawaii, you kind of know these people. My dad lived there for a little bit. I visited him and kind of saw some of these people. So, but yeah, really, really, really good movie.
Yeah. No, it's one of those little dramas where it's kind of lives or dies on the performances, and George Clooney he's got this kind of quirky, manic, like kind of not losing his mind, but just kind of losing a grasp.
He's on the verge of it, but he never loosens his grip, but he almost does a couple times. Yeah. And the closing shot of the movie is something I'll always remember. It's this really still shot of the family doing stuff, and it's really good.
My 24 is a comic book movie, and it is Logan. Unsurprisingly, the only X-Men movie that will appear on this list, because it's like the only really good one in the last decade.
Now, admittedly, I didn't actually have it in my list, but I mean, I would have argued X-Men First Class. It shouldn't be ruled out.
Okay, fine. First Class is up there. It's a good movie. It's a great movie.
I really like First Class because it's the only X-Men movie that actually feels like an X-Men movie to me, because it feels like it has the X-Men vibe to it and the feeling of the characters to me. But I mean,
no, that's fair. Joe, I won't disagree with that. Although that was never in. It wasn't good enough in my memory to kind of be on the conversation.
Sure. Logan's a very different thing, of course, very standalone.
Yeah. Logan is it's old man Logan, and you've got old Xavier, and he's got the young girl that he has to protect.
Do you know what's so weird about Logan is that most of the X-Men movies, honestly, are mediocre to bad, and that's including the early ones that people do seem to have fond memories of, but I don't think have aged very well. And
I agree with that.
This movie, somehow, despite the fact that I don't like almost all of the X-Men movies, barring First Class really, it somehow makes me feel the nostalgia anyway, and the sort of the climactic nature of, hey, Hugh Jackman's ending his 20-year run as Wolverine. So despite the fact that I don't even care for most of those movies, it still has that sort of tinge of sadness that he's hanging the claws up. It's weird.
It does. I think it works in the sense that even in the worst X-Men movie, he's still there doing his best.
Sure, yeah, he's always been committed. He always came across as very, passionate and caring, and
yeah, like even in, I mean, let's be honest, Origins Wolverine is probably the worst one, and he's still trying. He can't save that mess of a script, but he's trying his best, which is why this works so well. When you get to the ending as well, and the next generation of things that were to come that will probably never see the light of day now, thanks to Disney. But it was nice while it lasted, and when you're watching it, especially if you watched it before any of that stuff, it worked. It landed really well. Yeah. So, real surprise, I think, this movie.
Yes. Yes, perfect ending as well. The last shot was actually, couldn't have done anything better. It was perfect.
Yeah.
My 24 is a movie I don't think you like as much as me, but I really liked, which is Why Don't You Play in Hell, which is a Japanese movie, which I mean, it's I don't even really know exactly how to describe it. I guess it's kind of like a comedy, maybe a little bit actiony movie.
Wasn't there gangs in this? Wasn't this like the mob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I guess like kind of a mob movie, but there's a lot of like different parts in it, like because part of it is you have like these kind of rival, I guess yakuza, I guess it would be called, gangs, and and you're dealing with one, like one hires like a there's a film crew to like to make a movie about them, and they're like making a movie but also like incorporating like the yakuza into it, which is like really like just makes it like really crazy. So like they're having like these big action scenes, and then you're also dealing with one of them has like their like the daughter of one of the gangs is kind of like run away and then is coming back to it, and it's there's a lot going on to it, but I think what really stands out is just it's very stylish, has like great performances, really cool like visual style, and it reminds me of like like Tarantino in a way, like it like kind of feels like a Japanese Tarantino movie, and not like the kind of like Japanese homages Tarantino makes in his movies, but like in the way that Tarantino makes a movie that just feels like cool, with like really funny, interesting characters. Like that's what I feel like I got a lot out of this.
24 is Arrival. Denis Villeneuve, who, great movie about communication, which is a very interesting subject for a film. And
yes, it's been used traditionally and classically by Steven Spielberg in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Indeed. Fun. I don't want to say fun science fiction, but like a cool science fiction movie. It's got aliens that you get to see. It centers around one character who you're following her throughout, and the ending has such an interesting, I don't want to say twist, it's more of a reveal that changes your perspective of the beginning. It's really rewatchable because it changes the whole film, like just from the ending.
How many movies do you watch?
It parallels the actual way the dialogue works.
How many movies do you watch where the main character is a linguist? Like that, like that's not, especially science fiction.
True,
like,
yeah.
Because this movie's not about the shooty bang bang. This movie is about, just purely about making contact and understanding each other. That is all this movie's about. And not succumbing to the worst parts of humanity, and fearing that they're hostile. That's what the movie is.
Right. It is nice to see. I mean, the 90s and I guess the 2000s gave us so many of these aliens are invading and they have malicious intent. And this is one of the films that brought back, let's just bring benign aliens back. Maybe they don't want to take over our planet. Maybe they want to help us. They know we're in that, awkward part of history where we have to get over this hump where we all try to kill each other and destroy ourselves.
Yeah, it's
and then we can do something great.
It's kind of this, it's an extension to a point of what District 9 did, where that said, no, the aliens aren't trying to kill us, but we're complete dicks to the aliens. Like, it get flipped it. And Arrival's trying to not have either outcome. It's trying to find that peace and find that balance through communication.
Yeah. Really impressed by the film. Beautiful movie, beautiful performance, and definitely deserves to be here. Great movie.
My number 24 is War for the Planet of the Apes, and this will not be a shock because this Apes trilogy is one of the best things about the decade as a whole, and the final chapter is shockingly gut-wrenching, and not surprising because obviously Dawn was already very emotional and hit me in a lot of ways, but they did a good job of not revealing what the third movie was really about beyond a couple of key ideas. And there's like a big inciting incident in the first act which I didn't know about, and it kind of hit me, and then from there arguably the title's a bit of a bit misleading because it's there's not really a war per se, but what's actually in the movie is fantastic, and you got Woody Harrelson being the villain, Andy Serkis once again as Caesar, and it's it's about this about different people. Obviously, the allegories for racism, the allegories for prejudice, and all these things are all in there, and it does such a good job with this idea of trying to find peace between different types of people, or in this case, even just species. Really strong stuff, really emotional. It's one of these things where, for me, this movie kind of makes sure it doesn't actually fit in continuity with the original film. Not that it was ever going to fit perfectly, but for me, the ending of this makes me go, I don't want the original movie plot to ever happen in this world, because it feels like it betrays the journey that the characters have went through over it.
I agree, and I think it actually makes it clear that it doesn't. This is an alternate world at this point. Because obviously, the start of the trilogy with Rise, it was always marketed as, hey, this is the prequel to that, that movie you like. And by the end of this trilogy, it's like, it's just an alternate timeline now. It's fine.
Yeah,
it proved itself to stand its own enough that it deserved that.
And if they do any more Apes movies, and they're already talking about doing them, it's its own thing again. It's not connected to this. Let's leave this trilogy alone as the trilogy, and the ending's pretty much perfect. So do not touch it. Matt Reeves knocked it out of the park for a second time with this trilogy, and I have very little bad things to say.
Number 23. I think this might be my only. Yeah, it is. Gone Girl. By I'm bad with names.
David Fincher.
Fincher, thank you. I kept wanting to say Ben Affleck. My brain was saying Ben Affleck, but he didn't direct it. He starred in it. This is one of the only movies that's not a Star Wars or superhero movie that I went to the theater and saw multiple times. Just because I went by myself the first time, and then I told my wife, you have to see this. So then we went back and watched it again, and it's just, it rewards you for watching it multiple times, so you start picking up on things. But the basic plot is a wife goes missing, and the spotlight starts to turn onto the husband and how he deals with this, this idea that he might have had something to do with her disappearance, and just the places that this takes you. Just Ben Affleck kind of being understated in this role. Like, he doesn't, not that he doesn't have a lot to do because he plays the grieving husband, but it is a kind of complex role that's he plays kind of soft. Like, it's this weird thing. And if Argo made me believe in him as a director, this reacquainted me with his acting, was in Gone Girl. Because for a while he was doing these big roles, and this is just as big. He is the star of the movie. He's real good, and then the directing, Fincher, is just fantastic. The pacing, the editing, how the story comes together. I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen it, but if you know, and how it comes together towards the end is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I like Gone Girl a lot. Like, it's one of my favorite Fincher movies. It's it goes to both like expected and surprising places at the same time. And Rosamund Pike is fantastic in that movie. And it's got some really extreme moments. I remember going a second time with different people just to sort of see their reactions, and that was well worth doing. And yeah, very good.
Definitely that. And Carrie Coon plays his sister. I think she's really good in it too. It's, again, if you haven't seen it, that's another one that I recommend. It's I don't want to say a thrill ride, but it is quite a ride.
My 23 is The Hunt. So this is a movie where Mads Mikkelsen is playing the lead, and essentially he gets accused by a young girl in like nursery or whatever, young school. I can't remember the exact age. He gets accused of being a paedophile, essentially. Kind of by the child who doesn't really understand what they're doing. but it is about the witch hunt that takes place by the town after this, and him trying to prove his innocence, and not really understanding what, because he hasn't done anything wrong, and that's the crux of the movie, is he's done nothing wrong, but it's all about the way perception is treated from the rest of the town, and it is obviously it could be extrapolated out much wider, especially in the internet age with the mobs and witch hunts you get online for things. But it's very obviously a very serious topic, and it's handled excellently. And yeah, it's terrifying movie, because it is something so simple, and watching this man's life fall apart, and just him trying to pick up the pieces over the movie, and just watching that journey. It's heart-wrenching.
So then I guess I'll go to my number 23.
I mean, if you feel like it, Tim, you don't necessarily. I mean, that's typically where people go after 24. But I mean, if you want to shake it up a little bit,
Do you want me to go to 22? Well, no, I guess I'll keep a semblance of order. So my number 23, that is Avengers: Infinity War. Again, I understand the gripes about the Marvel movies, and I agree with Scorsese that they are like they are kind of like roller coaster rides, but I can't deny that sometimes a roller coaster ride is fun as hell, and I love that this movie just felt like a big comic book event on the big screen, which to me, there's so many moving parts and so much crazy stuff that it feels like a cliche, because I feel like every time a new comic book movie comes out, someone says like, I never thought we would see that, but it's like because now it's like nothing is like, everything is up for grabs. Like I don't think there's anything that you can deny that they're gonna do, but I mean really, like so much crazy stuff in here that I never really thought I would see, and it's big and over the top, but in so many like fun ways. I can't deny it. I love it. Like it's a big dumb roller coaster ride, but sometimes I'm okay with that.
I mean, credit to Infinity War. I was actually feeling really fatigued with the Marvel movies for about a year or two before this came out. Yeah. And this kind of recaptured the magic a little bit. And it's not so much that I didn't enjoy anything in the last couple of years, because I'd really enjoyed Spider-Man: Homecoming. Was really good, but there was a couple of years where a lot of the stuff coming out I was kind of lukewarm on, and I think Infinity War made me kind of excited again a little bit. At least for the next Avengers movie, if nothing else.
Yeah, and it's like and then notice like I really do like all the Marvel movies, but when I was putting this list together, it's like so many of them just kind of fall into a like, oh, that was fun when I saw it, but I haven't really thought about it since. That I don't feel like I was surprised that I didn't have that many picks on my list, to be honest.
I think that's what happens when you pump out 3 movies a year, soon to be 4, in fact.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, because like something like for example like Homecoming wasn't on my list, but it's just because not because I didn't love I love the movie when I saw it. I still love it, but again, you kind of have a bit of a fatigue for it. It feels like we've had so many Spider-Man movies at the time that it's like, it's not something that stands out that it's like, oh, the best of the best. It's just like, oh no, it's another comic book movie that was done well that I enjoyed, but don't know what else to say about it.
23 is Annihilation, another sci-fi film.
Mm-hmm. But a real sci-fi chunk in the middle here, I'm noticing.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Hey, no complaints.
I'm a big sci-fi fan, so.
Yeah, it's almost like you should be on.
There's bound to be a lot of them on here.
It's almost like you should be on a sci-fi movie podcast or something. Yeah, it's weird.
I know. Annihilation, very, very, very dreamlike. It's a lot like describing a dream when you have to like describe what happened in the film, and it is really ballsy. It has a ballsy premise and ending. The fact that all the people who go in are all female to investigate what's happening. Something has landed from outer space onto Earth and is causing changes in this area surrounding a lighthouse. And the people who go in, we're mostly following Natalie Portman's character, who is a biologist or a geneticist and also a former soldier, and she really sells it. And the whole world is so gross but beautiful that you're looking at. Like there's an image of like a person who's dead against a wall, and it looks like their brain has exploded, but it's exploded into like this beautiful tree, this pattern that you can't like look away from. And it's like it's taking everything gross on Earth and turning it into something beautiful but dangerous, and understanding what that means. Really fantastic sci-fi. It gets really ballsy at the end, and I think a lot of people get turned off by it, but not me. I love it.
It's very otherworldly, and it's kind of that thing where you don't feel like anything that's happening is necessarily malicious. It's just happening because this is what it does.
You just don't understand it.
Yeah. So I like that aspect a lot. My number 23 is The Hunt, and Mads Mikkelsen. It's a tour de force performance. He's. I mean, the whole movie revolves around him, and it works entirely based on him. Just acting his ass off. This movie is so uncomfortable to watch. It's uncomfortable watching the accusation, if you can even call it that. Really, to be honest, it's less of an accusation and more a child says something silly. An adult thinks it sounds concerning, draws more out of her, and it sounds worse and worse the more she speaks. And I don't really want to say much more about what actually happens in the movie, because I feel like you should just sort of experience it and feel the dread of everything about it. Like it's such a unique feeling in this film, because it's not dread in a movie where you're worried someone's going to get killed for some reason. It's not dread like a horror movie where there's something scary. It's a very unique, uncomfortable dread of like there's almost no way out of this once people have got this idea in their heads. And so it's a very depressing watch, let's be honest, but but it's a tour de force of depression, and it has obviously a very important, strong message to it. So yes, me and Connor happen to land on number 23 with the same movie. So
it always happens in every list, and I thought maybe with this one being an entire decade we'll avoid it, but apparently not. It's
really random as well. It's just a random number in the middle, so which is the most bizarre thing about it. But hey ho, there you go. That is The Hunt.
Number 22. It's a superhero movie, but it's not an MCU movie. But it's Logan. Logan's so good. It's the Wolverine movie I'd wanted since I was a kid. It's gritty. It's emotional. It's Hugh Jackman, bringing his A game. To a character that he helped define. It's got Johnny Cash over the end credits, so you can't be too mad at that. And it introduces Laura to the cinematic world in one of the best ways I can imagine, with this, I don't want to say father-daughter, but that's kind of could be older sibling, younger sibling, father-daughter relationship with Hugh Jackman. That's fantastic. And what's her name? Daphne Keane?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I gotta watch Dark Materials. That's on the to-do list because I know she's in that.
No, you don't.
No?
Mm.
Pete, breaking my heart.
Yep. Cara didn't like it either, so it's not just me.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this movie is such a sum of its parts, and it's this one Gavin Hood. I want to say. No, I gotta look this up real quick.
What, a director?
Yeah, the director.
You mean James Mangold?
James Mangold, thank you. I get the Wolverine directors confused.
You've had like
Gavin Hood did the bad one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You must have gotten like 10 directors wrong or forgotten so far.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. My brain's in mush right now. But yeah. No, James Mangold. He also directed Ford vs Ferrari, so it's not the first appearance. Let me double check that because I feel like I'm missing something up. But yeah, no, I can't speak enough, good words about Logan. There's another one that the ending just affects me so emotionally, and every time you can't be cool being emotional listening to a Johnny Cash song over the credits.
My 22 is Marriage Story. This is a pretty recent entry. Obviously, this is a 2019 movie that came out on Netflix.
We got a recency bias here.
Possibly, I'm willing to accept that is a possibility. But holy crap, I love this movie. It is a movie about Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson going through a divorce, and that's the movie. It sounds boring if you say it like that, but it is all about the escalation of things, the way the kid kind of gets dragged into it, and just the way it impacts both of their lives in different ways, and both of them act some career defining performances, and especially from Adam Driver. His is something that I've liked him for a good few years now. He's been really solid and good in pretty much everything I've seen him in. But this was next level. As no, this should be a leading man going forward in as many movies as possible, because he can act his ass off. And it is carried on their performances, and some great supporting cast as well. Like Laura Dern's in there, doing a great job. But it is just this tragedy of their divorce, and just kind of watching it spiral out of control.
My number 22 is also a comic book movie, but I will say this one actually does stand out, from the other movies, and that is Logan, which I just think is phenomenal. Talk about fatigue with the Marvel movies, but I mean, the X-Men movies was really, I guess, kind of hit and miss. Like, they had a little bit of an upswing with, First Class, but then, I feel like they kind of lost some goodwill in that. And then, like, the Wolverine movies, I did like the Wolverine, but then when Logan came out, that just really, I don't know, just hit a lot of like great spots for me. I just love like kind of like the Western feel, I guess probably wouldn't say like apocalyptic timeline, but just kind of like this, depressing, desolate future, and just really, really cool movie. I don't know.
Slight dystopia is how I'd describe it. Slight dystopia.
There you go. Yeah.
Number 22 is another horrifying but beautiful film. It is Midsummer.
Ah, yes. It's a cheery film about romance that we all have hope in this world, don't we? Not everything's miserable at all.
Yep. And don't be an asshole boyfriend. And, pretty good message.
I mean, the message is pretty solid, but I think what's great about this is that there's actual horror stuff as it goes on, but ultimately the real horror comes from, like, this relationship's over already, and one of them's already checked out, and the horror is just how bad you feel every time he's like stringing her along, or not, just doesn't have the balls to say that he wants this to be over, and it's just making things worse and worse and worse, and you have this feeling in your stomach, and it's like, what? Oh.
Yeah, and the place that they go to, like, it is so deceptive. Like, it's everything is bright and colorful, and there's flowers, and everyone's dancing and having a good time and getting high and having, like, it's just one big party. But oh no, this is also kind of culty. Like, there's just these little things, or like, I guess that's a weird European thing to eat someone's pubic hair when you like them, but pretty gross.
And there's not a lot of violence in it, but when it does get violent, it is violent.
It's shocking, when it happens, and bizarre. It's very bizarre. Really, really good though. Really one, like, I think it's like a 3-hour film, but it does not feel like it. Even though it is not like a fast-paced movie, it just like takes its time and really builds up the dread and the atmosphere, and lets you figure things out at your own pace, and it is really great payoff. My
number 22 is Her, and this is Joaquin Phoenix, the voice of Scarlett Johansson, and who's an operating system. I should really point that out, because it's a love story between a man and an operating system. And what's so good about this movie is that it's absurdly relatable, and like just how lonely he is, and you understand why he feels the way he does, and why this like branch of like some happiness, even though it feels like something that's really fake and something that shouldn't mean this, but you feel it as it happens. There's a genuine connection between them, and ultimately it's this again movie with performances that are just him especially, and then hers, just the voice of the operating system. But both of them really have to work hard for this to work. But it's a very sweet film that has a lot to say about love and loneliness, acceptance, and things like that. There's a lot going on, and I was talking about earlier how horror movies this decade, some of the favorite ones tended to be things that went beyond just horror. Now, sci-fi is a lot more broad than horror anyway, but I would definitely describe this as a movie where, yeah, it's science fiction, but it's not necessarily what you think of first when you think of science fiction. It's a lot more quirky indie drama than it is.
It's as much an indie romance as it is a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, but it melds those things together and has a lot to say because of that. So it's a very charming little film, despite the fact that it sounds like it could feel really sad and depressing. And, there's a lot of sadness here or there. It's not, like, devoid of that, but ultimately it's actually a fairly uplifting experience that is probably quite good for anyone who's feeling lonely, to be honest.
Number 21, it's a comedy. It's one of my favorite comedies. It's something that I believe I had Pete watch. This time they all blend in. But it's Easy A. Emma Stone, just such a great movie. I was looking for good teen movies. This is up there. This is in the top, like with stuff like Mean Girls. But yeah, and it comes down mainly to the Emma Stone portrayal because the script's pretty smart, like what it does, but she brings such a liveliness to the character of Olive, and that like there's these little quirks that she has, and as the story plays out, she becomes endeared to you. And when the third act hits its twist, you understand the scandal behind it all. But yeah, it's basically a kind of a retelling of the Scarlet Letter. That's where the title comes from, Easy A. And there's the double entendre and whatnot. But yeah, she basically, one of her friends needs help, and she lies about losing their virginity, or he lost her virginity to her, and it becomes like a side hustle for her to do this for guys and whatnot, and what happens to the school and her and the community, and yeah, and again, Emma Stone. I can't say enough good words about that lady.
My 21 is The Martian. So this is the movie where Matt Damon gets stuck on Mars and has to survive. And
excuse me, the phrase is science the shit out of it.
Fine, he has to do that. And you've got people on Earth, trying to figure out how to rescue him, and figure out, okay, how can we get there? Where can we reach him? But whatever. And that stuff's all great as well, and it leads to some great sequences. But the bulk of the movie and all the best stuff is Matt Damon there on Mars talking to like a video log recording thing, and just the day to day of him trying to survive and the next bit, and not just survive, but can he thrive there? And what can he do? And every time something goes wrong, there's a new challenge, and it's just how to overcome that. But it is also a very funny movie. There's a lot of comedy in here, and it's Ridley Scott's best movie in a while. Let's be honest, in quite a while.
Well, he has his ups and his downs. He if you had him a good script, he'll go and make a good movie. That's always been my opinion of Ridley Scott. If he has a weak script, then he'll go make Alien Covenant.
He didn't have a great decade overall, did he? Let's be honest.
And then, so I guess that'll bring me to my 21, which is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Fantastic, vampire, Western, skating, female movie. Was it Iranian?
Iranian vampire Western skater horror movie. And romance.
Yeah,
I forgot romance.
Romance, damn. Yeah. But this is just a fantastic one. Like, if you want to talk about like style, this movie just has such a good atmosphere about it. It feels very unique and original. It is a vampire movie, but it's doing something different with it, and it's it's another one that when you watch, it's like hard not to get sucked into with with everything about it. It's another very cool, slick looking movie.
Very haunting. It's all about the visuals. Yeah. It's all about the pacing, the visuals, and the mood and all that stuff.
21 is Cabin in the Woods, another horror movie.
That's a great horror movie, though. This Cabin in the Woods is basically flawless. Let's be honest.
Yeah, really, really fun. Yeah, convinced a friend to go watch this with me who did not like horror movies. We both left smiling ear to ear, going, that was really scary and really, really funny and super tropey, but for a purpose, and really challenges horror movies today to say, okay, it's time to do something different.
Yeah,
Because even though we like all this, you recognize everything that you see in the film, like just every beat. And you're like, I guess there are a lot of formula to these horror. Not that they're bad, but
it's
like, give us something new.
It's very meta, is the point. It's a very meta horror film about the state of horror films. And it's it's co-written by Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon, who you may know from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Josh Whedon?
Don't do it. Don't do it. You're doing that intentionally.
I've never heard of him.
You know what you did. You know what you did. His humor is like just sprinkled throughout this, and you can tell it's his humor. A lot of the dialogue, a lot of the way it bounces off each other is very, very him. But it's just so playful, and I love that. I love that things that it teases, it does pay off. Like the last act is so like batshit insane, and just everything. It's like yes, all of it.
Pretty sure there was a bat also. Yeah, definitely insane. And I think the moment where I realized I don't know what this movie is going to be is like right at the beginning, where you get like the two guys on like the it's the dad from Step Brothers and the guy from Get Out.
Richard
and
Jenkins.
they're in like the little cart, like golf cart, driving together, and they're just talking about something casual, and then just boom, Cabin in the Woods title comes up. You're like, what am I about to watch?
Bradley Whitford,
yeah,
Bradley
great
Whitford and Richard Jenkins is the names
Yes,
you're looking for.
thank you.
My number 21 is The Neon Demon. This is a Nicholas Winding Refn film. Lots of colour, lots of neon lighting, lots of slow, moody takes, lots of silent staring at each other. It's basically perfect. I mean, I mean, it's full on Refn. It's a full on Refn movie, and if you hate the sound of that, you'll hate this movie. But if you like the idea of a long, just sort of like soaking in the atmosphere moments, before the person on screen finally does the thing they're going to do. The opening shot's just someone lying on a couch. It's like a photo shoot. It's just the camera's pulling back very slowly. But it's just this, the image is just so bewildering because it's the model's got her throat slit. It's not real, of course. It's just, for the photo shoot. But you've got this perfectly reflective floor, and you've got this neon triangle behind her. Like the whole thing is just mesmerizing, and it's a mesmerizing scene after mesmerizing scene. But it's a horror movie about what so specifically in this movie, the fashion industry and the modeling sort of side of the industry. But you could apply this to like a wider scope of saying actresses and anything in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. It's the idea, the neon demon being the kind of Hollywood and LA and all that kind of thing itself. But the idea of chasing these goals and chasing these dreams and what people put themselves through and what they'll do to each other to achieve it. And ultimately where that takes. And there's definitely some even more horror full-on concepts as the movie goes on as well, but great cast, including a small performance by a very asshole version of Keanu Reeves, who's having a bit of a Keanu-sance these past few years, and he's probably the most popular he's ever been in the last few years, let's be honest.
Which is mad when you think of how popular he was around The Matrix.
Yeah, but I would say that at this point, because now he can just walk out the stage in E3 and people will go lose their shit because, hey, Keanu Reeves is such a nice guy and he's John Wick, and now he's, doing...
He's got a beard now, and he didn't during The Matrix.
Yeah, he's in the SpongeBob movie that's coming out or just came out.
Is he?
Yeah, live action, he's there. Like SpongeBob, like, hallucinates or something and sees him in, like, a tumbleweed, and it's, like, Keanu Reeves' face talking to him. Like, someone sent me the clip and from the trailer, and I was baffled.
We are definitely at peak Keanu. I will not deny that at all. And so we should be, because he's wonderful.
Anyway, my number 21 was The Neon Demon. And that'll bring an end to this part of our top 50 movies of the decade. So please do let us know in the comments what you think of our picks. Give your own picks, of course, as we go along. And of course, you can support everything we do by heading to patreon.com/MildFuzzTV, and you can support us over there by giving us as little as $1 per month, and you'll get bonuses for your troubles. You get extra episodes of some of our movie podcasts. You get voting rates at the $5 tier as well, some early access there. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. Otherwise, rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe, all that usual stuff. All of it does help. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys. And if you didn't get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.